All right. Hello, Tai Chi and Qigong people. Dr. Andrew Von Plitt here with another live stream where I am answering questions and responding to comments that have been left on previous videos on my channel. So let's go ahead and get started. There's quite a few comments and questions from over the weekend and the past couple of days. So I'm gonna just jump right in and start answering some questions, responding to comments. If you are new to this channel, um, I basically post content, instructional videos mainly for Tai Chi and Qigong. And I also have a website, andrewplitt.com. That's ANDREWPLITT.com, where I kind of compile all the instructional information for Tai Chi that I've made so far. So that's a great resource if you're looking for a place to find everything in one place instead of trying to find it all on YouTube. So I encourage you to check that out. I'm also a naturopathic doctor in the Portland, Oregon area, and I have a website, Dr. Von Plitt, that's DRVONPLITT.com, where you can find out more information about that. So I'm going to jump right into comments and questions on previous videos. So the first comment is on the most recent upload for the Taiji 10 form series, connecting moves 1 through 4. And this one is from Laura Gwen. Thank you for posting this next installment. They're very helpful. You are so welcome, Laura. Thank you for the comment. I'm very glad to hear that these videos are helpful for people. I love hearing those comments and getting that feedback that these videos are actually doing some good for people. So I'm glad you're enjoying it. Glad it's helpful. Let's see. So the next comment or question rather, that I'm going to respond to is from the 5th video in the Tai Chi 108 form series for the raise hands and step forward posture. This is from a user named Adam K. And Adam says, let's see. Hi, I want to ask why your step forward looks like a kick. I've seen Yang Jun's performance and he didn't do it this way. Can you explain the differences? Yes, that's a great question. And I definitely can explain the differences. So the version of the 108 form that I have posted, first of all, the Yang style long form is counted several different ways. One of the most common ways is 108 movements. The version that's taught by the Yang family right now is 103 movements, essentially the same form as far as the movements and the order that they're practiced in. There are other ways. There's like a 50, is it 50? Trying to remember. There's other versions of like the numbering for it. The two that stick in my mind right now or that are coming to my mind right now are the 108 and the 103. So the version that I have posted, the 108 form, is like a variation of what's considered like the standard form for the Yang family long form. So I learned a version of the form, the 103 form, that's very similar to the way that Yang Jun and Yang Jung and basically the Yang family teaches it. It's not exactly the same, but it's very similar. And that was the first version that I learned. And I, being fairly, quite a bit younger when I learned it, I thought it was a lot more boring than the version that I posted instructions for the 108 form. When I learned that form, I really liked it because there was a lot more intricate looking movements, a lot more expression of coiling motions in the body, a lot more expression of like fudging movements and stuff. You don't really see that in the standard long form. But the more I've been practicing, the longer I've been training Taiji, the more I've come to appreciate what appears to be the more simple version. That's kind of the more standard version, because the internal work that's done on that is pretty profound, and it is also in the 108 form that I teach as well. But it's less obvious, like it's more subtle. And I think the reason that I found that version of the form a little bit more boring when I first learned it is because, of course, when you're first learning a form, you don't understand what's going on inside. You just understand like where the hands and feet go. So I didn't really teach that form. And I've only within the past 5 years or so kind of gone back to it and just been practicing it more. So eventually I am going to start putting out videos that have that version of the long form. But yeah, so the reason there's a difference is because they're two different versions of the same form. And you'll notice this subtly when you go to different instructors or different areas. They will practice a form in a way that is essentially the same, but there's differences. There's things that are different, things that have been changed. the movement's the same, but the expression, like the detail in the expression is different. And with this raise the hands and step forward movement, that kick, that's one of the applications for that movement. And so in this version of the 108 form that I have instruction videos up for, that kick is expressed in the form. So instead of it being subtle and it looking like just a step forward with that foot, it's an expressed application in the movement. So that's why it's different. It's just because it's another version of the form. And I'm assuming you haven't seen any of the other videos or the demonstrations for that form, because that's not the only thing that's quite different from how Yang Jun teaches it, or how that kind of more standard version of the long form is taught. So if you were to watch other videos in that series, you would be asking the same question over and over, because the emphasis on the movements, the emphasis on the application in the movements is different than the emphasis in the kind of more standardized long form for Yang style Taiji. So yeah, any of the movements in that series are going to seem quite different than what Yang Jun does. And eventually, like I said, I will be putting out a series that's more standardized long form, but that's not something that I really taught when I was teaching in-person classes, because I was still a bigger fan of the 108 form as it's shown or taught in the videos that I have up. So that's why. I hope that answers your question. Let me know if you have any further questions on that, but thank you for the question. And I'm going to move on to the next comment. This one is from, let's see, one of my previous live Q&A sessions, and it's from a user named Lefty Crafter. And he says, "Thank you. Looking forward to continuing this series. Great work." Thank you, Lefty. I'm glad you're enjoying this series. I'm glad you're enjoying these quick Q&A sessions, and I hope you are getting a lot out of them. I think I accidentally just started. I don't know what that was. I don't know if you guys could hear that, but I somehow clicked on something that said something on my computer. So as you can tell, I'm not like the most tech savvy person in the world, but we're making this work. So anyway, thank you, Lefty Crafter. I'm glad to hear you're enjoying the series, and I'm going to keep these videos coming, and hopefully they continue to be useful to those watching. All right, so this next one is a comment on the Taiji 24 form series, the first connecting moves video. This one is from a user named Peace Be to You. And this user says, let's see, the preparation stance, the side step to the left, way too wide. Cool. Shoulder width is just guideline, never exact science, but yours seems too wide. Okay. Thanks for the feedback. I saw this one a little bit earlier, and this is something that I wanted to spend a little bit of time on. So it's true, like, especially if we're talking about like the kind of standardized long form. If you look at, so I'll just pull this out again. I've shown this book in previous videos, this Mastering Yang Style Taijiquan. This is basically translated from old Taiji instruction manual manuscript stuff, very technical terms. And the starting posture, I'm just going to turn to that page. And this is also how the Yang family teaches it. Okay, starting posture. If you can see right there, you're starting with your feet shoulder width apart. So there's no starting with the feet together and stepping out in the way that it's demonstrated here for Yang family style. When you watch Yang Jun or videos of Yang Jun doing it, you see that they start with their feet shoulder width apart, and they start the form from there. They don't start with their feet together and then step out and then start the form. So that is just a difference in how it's practiced. All the forms that I've learned in Tai Chi, and it's very common in Tai Chi forms to start with the feet together and then step out. It's fine to start with the feet shoulder width apart. I think that opening movement has a little bit to do with showmanship. It looks better in competitions, starting with the feet together and showing that you're, kind of commencing going into that beginning stance. It's not detrimental, like in martial application speaking, when you're practicing, it's not incorrect or whatever to start with the feet together, bend the knees, step out. As far as the distance of the feet, the thing in Tai Chi is that, like I've said in other videos, there are many correct ways to do something, but there are also incorrect ways to do things. the thing that makes something incorrect in Taiji is not so much did you step with your feet like further than shoulder width apart, or did you shift your weight in one direction versus the other. That's not always the case, but sometimes there's variation. For example, when you're doing roll back or lu, one variation of doing that, the standard way of doing it is you shift the whole body back as you roll back. Another way of doing that is that you shift the body forward as you roll back. And I wish I had someone here that I could demonstrate this with why that's useful. But basically, when someone's force is coming at you, if you go back and that force is redirected, like kind of continues at you and you're not able to lead it to the side, then it's easy for that force to overpower you. If you lead that force back as you're moving forward, you can move that force past you and get in a better position. So that's one reason, and it's not really commonly taught, but that's one reason why you might change the shift that you're doing to a forward shift as you're doing a lu or roll back motion with the hands. So is it wrong to shift forward? Well, I mean, compared to like the standard way that most everyone practices it, yeah, that's not the right way to do it. But is it wrong from a Taiji perspective? Well, no, it's not wrong because it's not violating any of the Taiji principles. And if it's putting you in a more advantageous position, you're good. So as far as stepping wider, putting you in a more advantageous position, I don't know that it necessarily does. But as long as you can keep your structure, you can keep your balance, and you can keep your frame, you can maintain all the Taiji principles, keep them all intact. When you step out, you can really step as wide as you can while maintaining all those things, and it's not incorrect. As soon as you step far enough that you lose control of your frame, your structure, your balance, you lose any of the Taiji principles, then you've stepped too far. And then, yes, stepping out that far is incorrect. So I appreciate where this is coming from. Like that, it seems like the comment is, let's see, shoulder width is just a guideline, never an exact science. True enough, but yours seems too wide. So of course, that's a very subjective measure there. It seems too wide. Okay, but I think the more exact way of telling if something is too wide when you're practicing Tai Chi, if your stance is too wide, if your movement's too big, if you're overextended, all of those things is, are you violating Taiji principles? Are you losing your structure? Are you losing your frame? Are you losing control of what you're doing? And if the answer is yes to any of those, then you're going too far with whatever it is you're doing. And the thing with that is, depending on your balance, it's possible to step less than shoulder width apart and lose your structure, lose your frame, lose your balance. And that's less correct than stepping wider than shoulder width and maintaining all of those things. And so that's not putting anyone down who has trouble balancing with small steps. That's just saying that the width of the step depends more, the correctness of the width of the stance depends more on your ability to maintain Taiji principles. And if you're wanting to take your Tai Chi further and make it more useful physically for you, it's a good idea to push yourself physically to do deeper stances, to do wider stances, things like that, while maintaining the Tai Chi principles. Because if you always do narrow, small steps, your body adapts to that, and you can't continue to kind of grow in what your body is adapting to as far as your Tai Chi practice goes. If you start and you can only step this far while maintaining your balance, and then several months later, you find out you can step this far and still maintain your balance. And then several months later, you try and you say, oh, I can step out this far. And you keep seeing how far you can step and kind of widen that stance, obviously within reason. But you do that, you can progress with strengthening your body and adapting and pushing your body toward positive, meaningful adaptations that increase the strength, the flexibility, the range of motion, rather than limiting yourself to, it's supposed to be shoulder width, so I'm going to keep them shoulder width. So I guess that's a little bit of a tangent, but no, I appreciate the thought about the width of the stance. And I think a lot of times for a beginner level, it's important to remember that guidelines are good to follow, especially as a beginner, because it keeps you kind of in a safe range. Like keeping the step closer to shoulder width, you're less likely to lose your balance. You're less likely to lose all of those structural components of Tai Chi. So it's a great starting place, but it's not like it shouldn't limit you, I guess is what I'm getting at. So yeah, and I checked out Peace Be To You's YouTube channel. It seems like there's several videos of someone leading Tai Chi classes there. So if that's the person that owns the channel, it does seem like this person knows a decent amount of Tai Chi or has quite a bit of experience with that. So a lot of times when I receive comments that are critiquing what I'm doing, I'll go check out the channel and see kind of where it's coming from. Um, I don't think this is what this, obviously, I can't say what the motivation behind this comment was, but for those of you who are Taiji instructors out there, uh, I guess I'll just talk from my experience. I have found that the majority of times that people leave comments offering corrections to what it is that I'm doing, they are not contributing a lot of times to people learning Taiji. Or I don't think that the intention is actually to be helpful. And again, I'm not saying this is what this user is doing, but a lot of times in general, when someone's leaving public corrections, it has more to do with demonstrating their knowledge than helping the person that they are, correcting. And I think that's something that as a Taiji community, we need to move away from. I think that there are, like, I am not perfect. I am not the end all be all knowledge of Taiji. And I definitely understand that. I am picky about who I take advice from when it comes to Tai Chi. I am picky about who I listen to when it comes to Tai Chi because I think there are people who are at a level that I respect a lot. And those are the ones that I want that critique from. And then there's a lot of people who know some things or possibly know less than they think they do. And they're very free with their advice, trying to help people out, trying to help people out. And I think it's a really good indication that if someone's really, really interested in helping you along in your Tai Chi training, um, and they see something that you're doing wrong, they're more likely to reach out to you in private and be like, hey, this concerns me a little bit. I see that you're doing this, and, here's my thoughts. You know, are you open to suggestions, whatever? But when people post publicly, trying to help, it typically speaks to, um, like I said earlier, more a desire to show what they know than actually to help the person they're talking to. And so I would encourage all Tai Chi instructors out there to move away from this sort of trend in the community of publicly trying to trying to like correct someone. And if you're really concerned about something that someone's doing, you think it's either dangerous for their practice or you think it's an error or something like that, reach out to them privately and have a discussion with them that's actually meaningful so you can see where they're coming from. And again, I'm not saying that's what this user is doing as far as like trying to show what they know. They may actually be coming from a good place. But I think those one-on-one conversations are probably more appropriate if your goal really is to help the person that you're communicating with. So that was another tangent. Um, there's a lot of stuff in the Taiji community though that I think we really need to work on. There's so many good things, and Taiji is such a great art, but there's some kind of, and again, this is not aimed at this user. Peace be to you, peace be to you as well, YouTube user. But in general, there's some sort of insecurity, I think, among some instructors in Tai Chi that they feel that if either someone doesn't agree with them or uh, an instructor is not them, someone other than them is teaching, that like it's just like they're the sole source of useful information, and it's just not the way information works. Like someone can be incredibly brilliant in a field and still not know everything about that field. And so it's important for us always to be open to receiving information. So I appreciate that this person was pointing out that they felt my stuff was too wide in that. Cool. But also being open to the fact that other people may do things differently. That doesn't make them wrong. And other people may disagree, and that doesn't make them wrong. And it's okay to be, it's possible for multiple people to be correct and not necessarily do things the exact same way. So there's that. I think I think we all need to kind of step back from the idea that we need to be the sole source of information when it comes to Tai Chi and Qigong, and kind of make space for those who do things a little bit differently, because there's a lot that we can learn from that. So anyway, I'm going to get off that tangent and move on to the next comment. So thank you for the comment. Peace be to you. And I wish you the best in your training. Let's see. Next comment is from the most recent upload from the Taiji 10 form series, the connecting movements 1 through 4. This is from a user named JD Smith. JD Smith says, thank you so much for posting this. I've been doing your videos for 14 straight days now. JD, you are so welcome. I'm so glad that you have been able to make use of these videos for the past 14 days, and hopefully you continue to make use of these videos as I put them out and they're helpful for you. As always, if you can find an instructor in your local area that you can work with one-on-one, that's going to be ideal. But I hope these videos are very helpful for you in the meantime. And thank you for the comment. Let's see. So the next comment, I know there's more comments this time than I think any of my previous videos, so we're still going. This one is from another quick Q&A session live stream. This one is from a supporting member, Stargazer. I gave them a shout out in a previous video, and thank you again so much for being a supporting member, Stargazer. Really appreciate the support. Same to all the supporting members. I appreciate you. I appreciate your support. And Stargazer says, thank you so much for the welcome. You are so welcome. And your videos have inspired me to return to my study of Tai Chi. So glad to hear that. I find the instruction videos to be well presented, easy to follow. Glad to hear that. I appreciate you making them available to those of us who cannot access in-person instruction or experience. Really looking forward to gaining deeper understanding of Tai Chi as well. Great. So that's wonderful to hear, Stargazer. I'm so glad that you're enjoying the videos. I'm glad that these videos have inspired you to get back into your Tai Chi training. That is great. And I'm glad that these videos that I put out are easy to follow. That's been a big goal of mine in making these videos, is to make them very accessible to people, very easy to follow. So I'm glad to hear that's working. All right. It looks like we have one more comment here. Let's see. This one's from Tony Rodriguez on the Taiji 24 form, connecting moves 1 through 24. They say, love it. A mirror would be nice because it would allow us to see our hands when your back is to us. Voice instruction do make up for the absence of one. Let's see. Received instructions from Paul Lam. Yeah, Dr. Lam has a lot of really great information out there. This user's commenting on the fact that he has kind of a softer voice. I have a little bit of a louder voice, and so that makes it easy to follow along with the instructions. But if you want some more great information for Tai Chi, Dr. Paul Lam is a great resource as well. Let's see. Okay, so this user also has done 108, a version of the 108 form as well. That's made it a little easier to follow along, and appreciate you. I appreciate you too, Tony. Thank you so much for leaving this comment. I'm glad to hear that my videos have been useful for you. As far as the mirror goes, I agree. I think a mirror would be a great prop to have as a part of making these videos. There are several barriers to that right now. One is the cost of, getting a mirror that's big enough to make any difference in a video like this, or not this, but the instruction videos that I do. The other thing is finding a place that already has a mirror like that. Neither of these things are currently available for me. Either the resources to get the mirror that would be large enough, a place to put it once I got it, because I wouldn't want to just line my living room with mirrors, because that's where I'm currently doing my videos. And I also don't have like a studio that I can go to and film. So I agree. That's a great idea. I think at some point in the future, I would love to incorporate mirrors in the videos so that it makes it easier for people to see what's going on from multiple angles at once. But that's not something I can do right now. So that's where things stand. I do try to give as many angles as I can when I'm doing instruction videos, and that is to make up for the sort of lack of reflective surfaces that would make it easier to see those other angles. So it can be a little bit difficult, especially if you're trying to learn and the form faces you away from your screen that you're using. So you have to look over your shoulder to see what's going on. That's why I try to break down the forms into individual movements so that you can learn those. And then I put together the connecting movement forms where it goes in sequence. So you learn move 1 and 2, then you do the movement that connects moves 1 and 2, or the video that connects moves 1 and 2. You learn move 3, then you move on to a video that connects moves 1 through 3. So you're kind of learning the details of the movement and learning the sequence step by step so that by the time you get to the last video where all the moves are put together, you shouldn't have to really look over your shoulder to see what's going on the screen. All the movements should be down well enough that you can follow along with the video as just kind of a reminder, but you don't have to watch it closely to see what comes next. That's why I structured the playlists the way that I did, is so that it would be a logical progression starting from the first movement, learning how to put it together with the second, learning how to put it together with the third, as you learn the details of each movement. And then at the end, when you do that last video that connects them all together, you just kind of you follow along without having to like watch the entire thing and try to figure out what comes next. So that was kind of the thought process behind the video series, the way that I've done them. But yes, someday Amir will be involved. And I'm glad to hear you're enjoying the series so far. Thank you for the comment. All right. Let's see. And then we have a comment from today. This is from Katarina, who is a subscriber. Thank you, Katarina, for being a subscriber. I really appreciate that. They say, I'm still practicing the first half of the Yang style. This is on the 24 form. So this is connecting moves 1 through 12. So it looks like they're practicing the first half of the 24 form. And they're going to continue to do this until they reach the vernal equinox, then learn the other half of the form and hopefully combine them by autumn. That sounds like a great plan. It's really great to focus on small sections of the form at a time before adding new components so that you can really get it down. And then when you add a new component, it's not like, how do I remember all of this? It's like, I really have down what I've already done. Adding something new, it's not that hard to add. So yeah, you can kind of tell if you're adding things too quickly, if it's hard for you to remember everything. Just practice the things that you can remember. And when you have it down so well, you can do it without thinking about it. That's when you add something new. So then Katarina goes on to ask, question for you. How do you know when you're ready to move on and to learn another form? So I kind of answered that, but how did I know when I was learning? I had a teacher. I've had several teachers, but that was always kind of my that was the information that I would get for when it was time to move on. My teachers would say, okay, here's the move that you are learning now, practice it. And so I would practice it and I would practice it and I'd practice it and I'd practice it. And I wouldn't go to them and say, hey, what's the next move? I wouldn't like go, I wonder when I'm going to get the next move. I would just practice what I had learned. If I was halfway through the form, then I'd practice the first half of the form. And once I reached the end of that first half, I'd go back to the beginning and I'd go back through it. And that's what I would do until my teacher came over to me and said, okay, here's more movements. So that's how I knew that it was time to move on to the next thing to learn. When it comes to a situation where you're learning from videos, though, that's a little more difficult because you don't have someone watching you who's like, okay, you have this down. Or like, no, not quite yet. You need to work on this. And that's one of the reasons why I always emphasize work with someone in person if you can. Just super useful for that reason. You get that feedback that you need. You don't outrun your own progress. If you're working on your own, if you don't have someone in your area that you can work with one-on-one and you're learning from videos, I would say the best way, very similar to what I said just a few minutes ago, the best way to learn or to know when you're ready to move on either to the next movement or to the next form is when you can do everything up to that point, wherever it is that you are in the form. Right now, it looks like you're at move 12. When you can do moves 1 through 12 without pausing and going, wait, where was I in the form? Without saying what moves next, without big pauses, big stops, jerky movements. Everything feels like, okay, up to this point, I feel very comfortable. I remember all these things. When you get there, you throw on another move. And then you practice all the way up to that move and you practice that move. And you can practice that move on its own several times to make sure you have it down, but then incorporate it into the form. That's the connecting move series. You're at move 12, so you go move 1 through 12 all the way up to 12. When you're ready to add move 13, you're going to go connecting moves 1 through 13. Do all the movements up to 13. And that both reinforces what you've already learned, but it also allows you to add things on in a way that's not overwhelming. And it also ensures that you get things down before you move on to something else. Because something that I've seen as people who want to learn forms too quickly is they will learn a bunch of movements. And then this is a mistake that I made a couple times at least when I was new to teaching, is teaching too many movements to students. They'd be like, "Yeah, I got that down. What's the next one?" I'm like excited. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a new teaching, so let's go. Let's learn another movement." And I'm just excited to teach and share with them. But then they come back to the next lesson and they're like, "I got home and I couldn't remember anything but like the first two moves. What did we do last time?" And I would be like, "Well, yeah, we did these, extra 4 or 5 moves on top of that." And they're like, "Okay, let's go through that again." And it would be like reteaching that whole previous class, that whole previous session again. And what I finally figured out was that the way my teachers did it was the right way to do it, where you don't keep giving things to people just because they want more. You wait until they have learned it well enough, and you can watch them and say, "Okay, they know it well enough. It's time to add something on. Let's add to this. Let's stretch a little bit." And so you kind of have to be your own regulator when you're learning on your own from videos. So you have to be very honest with yourself and say, "Am I ready to move on to the next move, or do I just want to move on to the next move?" And if you can be very honest with yourself, that's a very important skill to have if you're learning from videos. And that's, again, why I always go back to learn with an instructor in person if you can. Um, yeah. So that's what I would say. That's how you know when you're ready to move on to the next movement, and just practice being very honest with yourself. And sometimes you're going to get it wrong and you're going to add a new movement and it's going to be too much, and you'll figure that out. It's just going to be kind of a trial and error thing. So I'm excited for you. Congratulations on being done with the first half of the 24 form. I'm excited to hear when you finish the second half of it and you can practice the whole thing in one go. So yeah, keep us posted if you feel like doing so. Thank you for being a subscriber, and thanks for the great question. I am going to jump back over, look through to see if there's any other comments that I missed or anything new since I started the video. Doesn't look like it. I think that's everything. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up. I meant to keep this short. This is probably the longest live stream that I've done so far. So hopefully it's been useful information for everyone who has been watching. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for your interest and your enthusiasm in Tai Chi and Qigong. Thank you for my words. My words are done with this video, apparently. Yeah, thank you so much for your support in this channel, and for your support in moving things forward with this channel. I really appreciate all of you. I really appreciate you supporting members. And I wish you all the best in your training. I will be back with another live stream in the near future. Until then, I wish you all the best. Stay safe and healthy out there.